5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello and welcome, everyone, to Truth, Beer, and Podsequences. Yay, indeed, Julia. Yay, indeed. This is a podcast where my co-host and I watch and listen to all the Cincinnati-based craft beer media from the previous week. We get together at a podcast host, and today we are back at Higher Gravity Summit Park. Thank you, Higher Gravity, for being a gracious podcast host. Now, my name is Marco, and I'm a taproom manager here locally. I spent several years brewing beer, and locally as well. And the voice you heard, and I said her name, but that voice belongs to the best co-host in Podcastlandia.
I am Julia. I love to drink all of the craft beer and craft beverages that Cincinnati has to offer. And I just learned that I have magic.
Magic.
I can make the lights in this place go dim, the natural light. I'm not talking about the bulbs.
Yeah.
I can just speak a word and it gets dimmer in here. The light no longer reflects off of the TVs into my eyeballs.
Higher gravity.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Amazing.
Yes.
So, that being said, hopefully there aren't too many consequences or podsequences from the hosts of the other craft beer media and things.
We sort of had one with this week's Barstool Perspective.
A little bit.
Not a podsequence per se, but there was a bit of a call out.
There was a recognition of sorts. And we'll get to that.
We'll get there. It's fine.
We'll get to that. So thank you for all of you who have been listening to make us the number one podcast that talks about Cincinnati craft beer media and podcasts. Thank you to all of you who've been with us a long time. Thank you for those of you who are new. Hopefully you'll listen to this and get it, or go back and listen to a few and you'll get it. That being said, all the thoughts and opinions on this podcast are ours and ours alone. They do not reflect any entity which we may be affiliated with, such as full-time jobs, part-time jobs, or Higher Gravity. If you want to get at us about something, you can read the show notes, and I encourage you to do so. You can find out how to contact us, or Julia will tell you at the end of the pod how to do so. That being said, we're a craft beer podcast, drinking podcast, whatever.
We're a drinking podcast, yeah.
So, no good drinking podcast would be a good one if we weren't having some sort of beverage. Mm-hmm. We are. And so, Julia, what you drinking?
I am having from the Butcher and the Brewer Albino Stout. I freaking love this beer. Every time I see it on tap, I have to get one or more pints, and tonight is one of those nights. I might switch it up as we continue on with our recaps, but for now, it is my beer of choice.
All right.
How about you, sir?
So I just finished a fest beer from Third Eye.
Yeah.
And then I've been doing this thing over the past 2 weeks or so where I've been sampling macro light lagers.
Yeah, you've been kind of like shuffling. You'll have like a craft beer or two, and then you'll shuffle in a macro beer just to cleanse the palate a bit.
Well, I've been doing that also at home, where I'll get like one can of one of them, and I have notes, and one of them just stands out as, what's crazy is one of them stands out as the number one beer in America at this point, and has been by far my least favorite.
I was just going to say, but is it your number one?
No. I actually said it amongst a group of people yesterday, and they looked at me like I had 5 heads. I'm used to that look, but believe me, like, that beer was not what I wanted. No, absolutely not. But what being said, I'm having a Miller Lite, 12-ounce Miller Lite can.
All right.
I left it in the can because that's how you roll. That's how you do it. We're America.
You're being fancy.
America.
I mean, who puts shit in glasses anymore? I mean, come on.
I mean, I almost drink nothing out of the vessel it comes in, but yeah, this one I went ahead and kept the can.
Yeah.
There might have been a little bit of judging by the bartender, Nick, here. I like to think not, but he...
No, he judges. He's
he
always
looked at me.
judging.
He cracked it open. He's like,
He didn't break eye contact with you. He was
no,
just like, seriously.
He looked. He grabbed it, stared me straight in the face, opened it, and went, "Do you need a glass?"
And he said it just like that, like
Yeah.
just one of those. I can't even.
Do you need a glass?
Don't make me dirty one of my glasses.
no.
For that. Of
course not.
No,
Duh.
absolutely not.
Who does that?
I mean, I'm sure there are people.
Here.
Put it in a chalice.
At home, I would. At home, I would. Absolutely.
Pinky
I'm
out
going
at
to put
home.
my lips to this aluminum? Are you crazy?
I mean, your lips on the aluminum
know
at
what-
home is probably safer than. You don't know who's been touching that.
I don't know where this can's been.
Exactly. So why would you keep it in the can? Why not put it in a glass while you're not at home
'Cause
to like
I'm
rinse
grown.
the top? Your immune system is strong.
Well,
It's-
apparently so. Apparently
or
so.
you're making it stronger by doing such.
Exactly right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. You got to eat a peck of dirt before you die.
Or a bag of dicks.
Yeah.
Speaking of, shout out
Speaking
to our.
of.
I mean, I still need to reach out to them, but Dick's potato chips. They are stupid good. We're not going to be crunching. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe later in the show we'll start
Maybe. You
doing some
never
more crunching.
know.
But shout out to Dick's Potato Chips for making some of the best potato chips I have had since the Grippos and Ruffles days. You know, I mean,
the Grippos and Ruffles days.
I do think that the barbecue are top for me.
Yeah, they're great. They're pretty
Yeah, they're
dusty.
like smoky and
Yeah, they're smoky and dusty,
Yeah.
and they have a sweet and then a slight spiciness to them. Yeah.
And what I noticed too is if you eat like barbecue grippos, like your fingers get that, like they're caked with the barbecue
Yeah.
powder. These, they have a shit ton of flavor powder on them, but I don't feel like it sticks to the chip. It stays more on the chip
Yeah.
than on your hands.
Do you use the Grippos dust for anything? Do you buy the dust?
I've never bought the dust. No.
No?
No. I've meant to, and I just never have. How about you?
I have not used the dust
Okay.
for anything.
Okay. All right.
You know, I would consider it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Dix, for being fantastic
Yeah,
at what you do, which is make everyone's mouths happy.
that's right.
Yeah, that's got to be their new
good.
slogan,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Just make everyone's mouth happy.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about some podcasts?
Sure, let's
and
get
some,
into
and
it.
some media. I guess I should just say media,
Media.
because not everything is podcast.
No.
Let's make sure that we're kind of on the same page with what we're going to be talking about.
By the way, speaking of media, everyone, you can find us on YouTube as well.
Audio only for the most part.
Audio only.
Yeah.
We have a couple of videos sprinkled in there, and we're going to do a couple of videos
Yes.
as we get into the late summer, early fall, and winter.
All right, the media that we are going to be talking about today, we're going to do some quick recaps of Adam Makes Beer
Yeah.
and his industry interview that he did this month. We're going to do a quick recap of the Jungle Jim's International podcast and YouTube video about Pickle Day. We're going to talk about Barstool Perspective, this past week's episode of that. We're going to be talking about the Brewery Explorers podcast, the Weekly Pint as always, and then two new to us and new to our recap list shows. We're going to be doing, or talking about rather, Turn This Off podcast. They interviewed Fabled Brew Works, and Making It Happen in Columbia Township podcast, where they talked to Bobby Slattery of 50 West.
Yeah.
Yeah, so two podcasts that I only happened to find because each of those breweries reshared information about those podcasts on social media. Otherwise, we'd have no clue that they existed. So that is something that you can do for us, is let us know about podcasts that you hear about, that you know about, and that way we can find them. And Zach, we know you sent one over. We didn't get to it this week, but we're going to be talking about it next week. And again, check out the show notes or stay until the end of the show to find out how to reach out to us about a podcast about Cincinnati craft beer that we haven't mentioned before. That way we can cover all the things.
All the things.
All the things. The YouTube shows, the podcasts, and if there's anything else really interesting content-wise that isn't in those two mediums that you think we should be covering, I mean, let us know, because there's so much out there, and we unintentionally miss a hell of a lot. With that being said, I've drugged this on longer than I need to. Do you want to start with Adam Makes Beer, or do you want to start with the Jungle Jim's International podcast? I figure get those two out of the way.
We can start with, let's start with Adam Makes Beer.
right.
So Adam Makes Beer, he does a live Q&A, and then he does a industry interview. This past week, he did an industry interview with David Lentz of Brewed Fiscally. That's the name of his business, Brewed Fiscally. Now,
that sounds like math.
Yeah. So if you go and watch the podcast or the YouTube show, which I encourage you to watch, David Lentz is basically a financial mind that worked at, actually currently still does part-time work for Saucy.
Okay.
And Saucy is the parent company for Cartridge Brewing here locally. And so there's a lot of talk between the two of them about some of the things that come up that both of them have been a part of. Talk a little bit about David's history in the business. Really, the conversation is about what you think it is. Brewed Fiscally, it's about numbers, about
the math and the financials behind
the
brewing
math and
industry.
the financials. Yeah. So it's about hitting your KPIs, key performance index. It's about hitting your budgets and your percentages from anywhere from brewing a beer with the strategies or concepts of brewing a beer if you're going to sell it across the bar only versus if you're going to sell it in distro. Back of the house, front of the house, labor percentages if you're running a brew pub, and coming together to get a P&L as quickly as possible. So that's what he, in his own business being Brewed Fiscally, is trying to help breweries with, which is all the way from recipe formulation, whether it be from the beer standpoint. And he's not going to come up with the beer for you. What he's going to tell you is, okay, so
it makes more financial sense to buy these hops versus that.
He'll probably take your recipe and get the cost information and give it to you and give you recommendations on based off of how you want to sell it.
Okay.
Is this financially okay or not okay?
Gotcha.
And then also from recipe creation, food purchasing, and execution on your back of the house menu if you have your own food program, and then also front of the house budgeting and scheduling percentages for front of the house. And then his commitment is to get you a P&L, a monthly P&L by the end of the first week of the new month. Because a lot of times what happens is many times small businesses can be steering a rudderless ship if they're not watching these costs daily, weekly, monthly. And so that's his commitment, is to get you the P&L as quickly as the month is over. That way you can adjust as quickly as the market is adjusting.
So in this interview, does he provide some sort of mini blueprint that a small craft brewery or local, small business could take to start trying to get all that?
They touch on a lot of things from A to Z. It wasn't a layout, a plan from A to Z.
Okay.
So, but it was a good flowing conversation, and I encourage everyone to take the time, if you have the interest, and to learn about some of the financial aspects and some of the the anecdotal tales that he has to say, talk about with Adam.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, that's that.
All right, and then I'm going to do a quick recap of the Jungle Gyms International Podcast, episode 147.
Jungle Gyms.
It's called We Don't Remember Pickle Day, We Remember Pickle Moments. And I will say this is something that you should watch on YouTube versus just listening to the podcast. The first chunk of it, minor chunk, maybe 15 minutes or so, was talking about just a couple of the Jungle Gyms, the new beverages that they've gotten and some of the typical Jungle Gyms sales and all that. They did touch a bit on the new 25 milligram THC Cristallo beverages in 16-ounce cans that have hit retailers everywhere. Yes. But then it goes into Urban Artifacts Pickle Day pickle eating competition.
Pickle.
And the bulk of the show is not just Mark recapping Pickle Day, it is literally a recording of the Pickle Day pickle eating contest. So you're hearing just his commentation. Oh, and there she goes. And all right, well, who's farther ahead now? Oh, it looks like this person has half a plate left. So again, for that part of it, you really do need to watch the YouTube video portion of it. Otherwise, the audio only, it doesn't really make a ton of sense. I mean, you can come up with the pictures for the contest in your head while you listen, but it is very much more of a visual episode than a podcast episode. But it is something that is incredibly entertaining. The Urban Artifact events like that, Missing Link Fest, Pickle Day, they do such a fantastic job of putting on those events that if you're not able to make it down, watching them is almost just as fun as being there. And you don't end up smelling like brine after the fact.
Yeah.
After watching the videos. I didn't have too much on that. I mean, that's really it just because, again,
we're not going to spoil
majority,
who won.
Right. I mean, the vast majority of the episode was, again, just them, the live recap of what was happening during the pickle eating contest.
What was one of the most?
It was a lot of fun.
What was one of the early pickle eating strategies that you just want to give the listeners an insight to go and watch? That this is the technique that was deployed. Or implemented.
A technique that was deployed that I was going, there is no way this is going to work. This is a bad idea. Was taking it wasn't a bowl. It was like a plate, but the plate was kind of had taller edges, so it was like.
Was it like the aluminum
bowl-ish.
Chinese to-go trays like they used last year?
Yeah, kind of like that. One of the strategies was to pick that up and just to kind of like dump it, like you were trying to kind of like drink.
Were they whole?
Everything.
They were whole pickles, right?
They were cut. They weren't. They were like medallions. That's what I'm trying to come up.
So they were pickle chips.
They're like chips. Yeah.
Oh, last year they were doing whole chunk pickles.
I mean, watch the episode.
Okay.
Watch the episode, and some of the strategies you would think were going to work.
Yeah.
Some of them did.
Yeah.
Some of them.
I'd love to see them not work.
Like I said, you end up walking out of there smelling like brine. And, I mean, yeah. Whatever works for you. But
you become pickled.
If you want to participate in next year's pickle eating contest, watch this. Watch last year's because that was recorded on video as well. Watch this year's, and I'm pretty sure you can find a couple of strategies that may give you several legs up.
You also, if you want to compete next year, what you should do is start your own YouTube channel and then record yourself attempting to try this over and over.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then
become
let
sponsored
us know
by Urban Artifact.
Yeah,
maybe.
Or
Who knows?
a pickle company.
There you go.
You never know.
There you go.
You never know.
All right, let's move on to full recaps. Do you want to talk about 50 West? Do you want to talk about bourbon? Do you want to talk about Hoots and Hops, lager beer, or Fabled Brewworks?
Wow, so much.
So incredibly much. Or is there one that you want to end with? Do we want to keep Brew Skies or Barstool Perspective, whatever they're calling themselves, and Weekly Pint for the end?
Yeah,
let's just try to figure out. Okay,
let's do that.
All right, so let's go ahead and do the oldest that we have first. I believe this is the oldest. Brewery Explorers.
The Brewery Explorers.
The Brewery Explorers, Season 2, Episode 11, Hoots and Hops at the Cincinnati Nature Center with Northwood Cider Company and Dead Low Brewing. They had this with a nice thumbnail on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, cool. It was on video as well. It wasn't. It was just the audio.
Well,
so
it was
it's out
audio
there.
with stills.
Correct. But it wasn't like a full video of the entire interview. So just watch it or listen to it wherever you want, but just be aware that if you're expecting to see a video of them at Hoots and Hops, that's not what the YouTube is, but it still gives you a bunch of pictures, so you actually get to see some of what's going on there, as opposed to just the podcast where you have the podcast thumbnail and that is it.
So congratulations, Noah, I think, right? That's probably what we want to start with. Congratulations on your...
what it sounds like.
On your new
endeavor.
New employment.
Yes.
At the Nature Center.
Absolutely. And I do want to say that there were a couple of odd sounding cuts between some of the interviews that they did. They didn't detract from it at all, but all of a sudden you're going, oh, it sounded like there was going to be a continuation of this sentence or this thought, and there wasn't. Still a fantastic interview, really liked it. It was recorded live at Hoots and Hops at the Cincinnati Nature Center, if you couldn't guess by the title of the episode. They started with Laura Whalen, who is the engagement and event manager at Cincinnati Nature Center. She gave a bit of information and history on what Hoots and Hops is, why it's important, how it ties into conservation, and how it funds things such as their conservation efforts, trail maintenance, and all kinds of things that a trail system or a park system needs to pay for that a lot of people assume. I mean, it's just trails through the woods. How much actual maintenance do you need to do? There's a lot.
It's quite a bit.
There's a lot. Let's see. Then they moved on to, I'm going to switch sides here. Then they moved on to talking to Rhea Curley, who is the Cincinnati Nature Center naturalist, or one of the naturalists there.
Yeah.
They started off with, what the hell is a naturalist?
Yeah.
What are you?
What do that be?
What do that be? So if that's something that you have heard the word of, the word a lot of times, you have no idea what it means. You get some education there.
Yeah, if you think it's just people running around making their own deodorant, that's not it.
That's not it at all.
No,
absolutely not. She talked about how Hoots and Hops, again, is helping the Cincinnati Nature Center, but more importantly, there was a great question posed: how do hops help the ecosystem? Which I really give Rhea a lot of credit, because she said we don't currently grow hops here, but because we work closely with some of the local hop yards, I can answer that question. You actually have a note here, Marco.
Yeah.
Blake is the one who may have convinced them to start growing hops.
Yeah. Way to go, Blake.
So if you go to the Cincinnati Nature Center and see hops, they are probably of the Blake variety, and that could be the next hop name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blake cones. I don't know, that didn't really work, but I'm sure they'll come up with a fantastic name for them.
Yeah.
They do, at Cincinnati Nature Center, they grow pawpaws, and they have even had a local beer made from pawpaws. They didn't mention the brewery that used the fruit grown there, but I mean, there are only a few local breweries that have made pawpaw beers.
Yeah.
Process of elimination, you can probably figure out pretty easily who that might be. Find out the connection between Hoots, owls, and hops.
Yeah.
Which again ties into the naturalist conversation, ties into the conservation conversation. There are a lot of words that are very similar there that I'm trying to say, and I feel like I'm not doing a great job of. They provide some other local ingredients to breweries for some of the beers that source local items. Hear more about that as Rhea is talking. And then they moved on to talking to Darren Wilson, who is one of the co-owners of Northwood Cider Company.
Yep.
There was a very unlikely source that drove them to open up in Norwood, and it had to do with students.
Yeah.
So if you think that education gets you nothing, it just might get you a job in Norwood. Take that.
Yes.
Take that as you will, and find out how what they found was the best strategy to make their ciders, and how it involves sledgehammers.
Sounds
Not
good.
Not the song.
Not the song. Peter Gabriel.
Mm-hmm. And then the last guest that they had was Brock Lush. He's the event manager at Deadlow. Went over the name Deadlow Brewing, what that actually means, the pros and cons of being just down the street from Riverbend, because not being that close to that type of a venue isn't all good, but it's also not all bad. It depends on the concert.
Yeah.
And the concert goers who tend to attend specific shows.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the last note that I had on this episode, when talking to Brock from Deadlow, Blake hates the beer there. He only loves their po' boys.
It's quite a revelation.
And pretty impressive that he said that, like, to Brock's face.
Yeah.
Like, you know what?
I'm not...
I had the beer, I had the food, and
but
I have to
really
say...
like your poor boys.
Exactly.
Hey, a good poor boy is something to like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Good shit.
Absolutely.
I haven't had
no
theirs,
argument here.
but,
Yeah.
you know.
All right. Maybe one day.
Deadlow, bring it here on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Some poor boys.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Do that. All right. Do you want to go ahead and move along to either Making It Happen in Columbia Township or the Turn This Off podcast?
I want to talk about both.
All right.
Let's talk about both at the same time.
That could be even more confusing than our podcast normally is.
Okay.
Let's do 50 West.
Okay, if we have to.
This is a podcast called Making It Happen in Columbia Township.
Hey, making it happen.
If you want to find and listen to this podcast, you have to go to SoundCloud and search for ESP Media. And
Yeah.
it'll be listed in their episodes there. This is an episode that they published on July 22nd of 2024, and it is called the Great Partnerships Podcast, 50 West Brewing. So, believe it or not, Bobby Slattery was being interviewed for this.
Of course, it falls into our wheelhouse. But how did we come upon this podcast, Julia?
50 West shared it on social media.
Oh, okay.
Like, hey, listen to, check out this interview, which is exactly how we found out about the podcast with Fabled Brewworks. Sometimes these companies, these breweries, these tap rooms, these bottle shops, they will share that they're on a show or they have some sort of media out there, and we go, oh, let's listen to it.
Listen.
And as long as it's not something where it's a 5-minute, oh, hey, I'm Bobby, I make beer, I sell beer, and that's it. I mean, we still might say it exists, but we're not going to, do full-on recaps. But yes, that is how I found these next two that we're going to talk about.
Awesome.
So Bobby Slattery of 50 West. They have the Columbia Township trustee and president, David Kubicki, I believe is how you say his last name.
Nice.
The resident service coordinator of Columbia Township, Lauren Allison. And it was kind of moderated by Local 12's Richard Skinner. He didn't say a ton during it, or again, the voices, I couldn't pick out who was who sometimes. So maybe Mr. Skinner said more than what I thought. It's about a 30-minute episode. It doesn't go too deep into anything, but there were some, I thought, really great stories and reminiscing happening in the episode. Bobby gave the history of the 50 West brand, how it ties into the road 50 West, how originally they were talking about just being a company that educated on beer, and then they went, you know what? Maybe we can do even more than that. Maybe we can actually make burgers, and if people like our burgers enough, they'll also like beer that we make to sell with the burgers.
Yep. How about
so
that?
It went from being an education company to a burger bar to a brewery. And then all that got jumbled up, and they ended up starting the brewery first.
Right.
Yeah.
And then another one.
And then
another one.
Cinco de Mayo in the rain was the dumbest idea ever.
Sounded like it.
That was a fantastic story.
That was a very good story.
They both recounted that with you could just see both of them with like their head in their hands going, that was awful. Why did we do this?
Yeah.
But then they came out of saying we should have never done this. We would never do this again. But then that kept transitioning into people that showed up to the event kept coming up to us afterwards saying how much fun they had.
That's a very interesting look into the entrepreneurial brain, right?
Yeah.
You go out there, you make something happen in whatever form initially, and it's just an abject disaster. And you're like, you know what? Not going to stop me from doing it again. What did we learn? How are we going to do it differently? And they did it again, and it's Bobby even talks about it. Is about for the successes you see, there's so many other things that weren't successes, and I'm gonna stray away from using the word failures because you learn from things that don't necessarily happen the way you expected or wanted them to.
Yeah.
You learn and then you move on.
I think the only time it could be a failure is if you refuse to learn something about it and just try to say, I'm just never thinking about it. I'm never,
Right.
going to reference that. As long as you take something away from it, you learn something. Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
Even if you don't follow through with an idea, concept, or whatever it is for another time, at least if you're batting around ideas and someone has one and say, you know what, we've done that, and for these different reasons we felt like it didn't work, and maybe it's not off the table to try again, but for now, for these reasons and what exists today, maybe we just table that idea and move on to something.
I mean, perfect example is our baseball beer bracket.
Yeah.
We had what we thought was a great idea, but we didn't take into account some of the logistics of being able to get together in a reasonable amount of time to drink them while they were still good.
True.
And out of that grew some ideas for other bracket type things or other videos that we do want to do
Yes.
later on in the year.
Yeah.
So we kind of learned from trying to plan the first one. And so now when we actually are doing our next idea, it's built upon already knowing what didn't work about a prior attempt.
Yes.
Yes,
Excellent.
Yes. In the interview, they talked about the 50 West expansion into Deerfield Township and how big of a deal that is. Deerfield Township doesn't really have a good sense of who their identity is yet, much like some of the other places like Columbia Township and some of the other areas that some of the bigger breweries.
That's their words, not our words, people.
Correct. This is recap. But I think that it's going to be amazing. They've broken ground on the new facility.
It's
site,
almost
the
ready.
Campus. Well, I was trying to pull the date out of my head when they broke ground, and then I'm like, well, no, shit, it's going to open. It's not this summer, is it? Is it next?
It's within a month, is what they're saying.
Shit. I am so far behind.
Can we have a button for that?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful buttons. Yeah. Let's see. What else do I have? I don't have a ton of notes because it was only a 30-minute episode. And again, if we talked about everything they talked about, you wouldn't feel the need to listen
why
to the
would you go
episode.
listen?
So we want you to do that.
But if you follow 50 West on social media, they have a contest out right now.
Yes.
You need to guess what is it? Is it the pounds or tons of sand that was blown in there for the volleyball courts?
Yes.
And if you're the best
shit.
if you're the best guess, then you win a 50 West prize.
Last note that I had on this episode, Bobby is a very optimistic guy, but how optimistic is he when it comes to the Bengals?
Okay. So
here we go.
Yes,
because we are so ready for football. It's like, all right, let's do this.
Yes, that is a segment, that is a thing. Go and listen to optimistic Bobby talk about this upcoming Bengals season.
And get ready for the next season of Truth Beer and Football.
Yes, Truth Beer and Football.
Because we are going to have a lot to talk about, including hopefully seeing Hakeem Butler on the field for the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You sent me that message.
I did.
That's good.
Did. Very excited.
Yeah.
Did you have any other notes on this episode of Making It Happen in Columbia Township with Bobby Slattery at 50 West Brewing?
No.
Okay. And just again, I'll put a link in the show notes, but to find this episode, go to soundcloud.com and search for ESP Media. That is how you can track it down. Or again, show notes and click on the link that I'm going to put in there.
It's a good idea.
I'll make it easy for you.
Good idea.
All right. Do we want to take a quick break before we go through the last 3 shows that we have?
Yeah, let's take a break. Okay. I think we need to take a break, collect ourselves a little bit, and then
I'm going to get an
come back.
Oktoberfest beer.
Dope.
Hell yeah. All right. We'll be
right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have made it back. And it's still just the two of us. Sorry if I got your hopes up for a third member of the Truth Beer Pod team. We're just as disappointed as you are. Maybe next week.
Maybe.
We'll
see.
Yeah. We each have new beers. Marco, would you like to share what you're drinking first?
I'm having a Daisy Cutter Pale Ale from Half Acre out of Chicago.
I'm drinking an Abomination for this time of year.
Yeah.
I know that I said I was going to get an Oktoberfest beer, and I fully intended to until I saw this sitting on the shelves, and I went, what could I get that will just disappoint the gnome to the ends of the earth and beyond? And he can't fight back because he's not here.
Nope, not here.
I am drinking from Masthead Brewing out of Cleveland. So another C-named city, Chicago, Cleveland. This is Haunted Hayride Pumpkin Ale.
There we go. Hell yeah.
Yeah, drinking a pumpkin beer in
Pumpkin.
July. And we'll be in
Look at Mark
August.
Borson in that Ohio Lottery commercial.
Oh, I missed it. I looked
Yeah,
away.
That's all right.
That's fine. I was kind of looking during when they were showing the Red Stadium. And
Yeah.
Walking in, I'm like,
See
oh,
if
I
you
wonder
could
if I see Nick. Yep, I didn't.
No.
So he's probably not even there.
No.
No. Well, we'll actually know if the Reds are doing well. He's not there.
Oh, there we go.
Yes. Yes. Nick, I hope that you succeed in your 9-9 challenge.
Way to go, bud.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about another new to us podcast, the Turn This Off podcast.
Turn this off.
And it is newer, Season 1, Episode 9, Fabled Brewworks, creating amazing and unique craft beers. A chat with founders John and John.
Yeah.
Yes. See if you can tell which is which.
Yeah.
Which,
One has an H.
One has an H and one does not.
Yeah.
The John...
And there's a right way and a wrong way to spell John.
Yes, there absolutely is. Both Johns are part of the 6 founding members of Fabled.
Mm-hmm.
The John with the H is the brewer. The John without the H does not brew.
Correct.
He just handles all of the things.
Yeah.
Mark, what were you saying? This episode, there may be a part 2 to this episode.
Yeah. So as you get to the end, we'll just let you know that he comes clean about a little bit of a production issue or an equipment issue. And so it ends, the podcast ends, and you feel like there was an unnatural ending.
Yeah,
There wasn't a sort of closing the show sort of thing. He teases a part 2.
Yes, yes. And when that comes out, we will
Part
talk
two.
about it. We will talk about it. We got the origin story of Fabled and why they are currently focusing a lot on sours, New England IPAs, etc. They're making the beers that they want to drink and that they want to make, but they are fully aware of providing enough variety to have beers for everyone to drink, which is why they will always have their Mexican lager on tap, because that has been surprising to them, their number one seller since the day that they opened. That one has always been on tap. I think the only time it's not been on tap is when they have to change a keg, and then it's not on tap for a few minutes at most.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of this is going to sound familiar if you follow what we talk about.
This is very true, yes.
So,
yes. So this isn't going to be a super long recap just because a lot of the information we've already shared, but we're just going to touch on the highlights. And if you've never heard of some of the previous episodes from Fabled, such as the Miami Valley Craft Beer Podcast, or I almost said the Weekly Pint, and that's not the proper episode, but Cincy Brewcast, some of these other shows that have Craft Parenting Pod, they did an episode down there. If you've never listened to any of those episodes with Fabled, definitely check this out because it gives you a good introduction to Fabled. We're going to potentially unfairly assume that you've been, that you've listened to a lot of those before, so we're not going to touch a lot about the origin of the name and the origin of a lot of the names of their beers, which I do like that they said that the names of beers can be just as important as the beers themselves.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you will order a beer just purely based off of the name, which I've done that before. Yeah.
Of course.
Two of their rather unique offerings are ice cream sours and meads. There aren't a lot of places that are doing either. There are a couple places in Cincinnati that are also doing meads. I know Listerman has some meads, and there's another brewery that had it. I don't think it's theirs. I think they are selling it from somewhere else. But I thought there was another one. But Fabled is one of the biggest local places to get a very good variety of meads in the Cincinnati area, as well as their ice cream sours. And they also talk a bit about how ice cream sours are different than a sour or a milkshake IPA. Their merch designs typically start as employee only. And then if enough people ask about them, like, oh, man, can I buy a shirt like that? Can I do, this tank top? Then they actually do bulk orders. And that's how their merch line comes about. So if you see like that huge, giant foam Fabled Brewworks hat, and you really want one, we just need more and more people to bother them about them.
It's also a line of Speedos, but they wear them on the outside of their shorts.
Yes.
Kind of like Superman.
Yeah. It's a fashion statement. They feel that heavily adjuncted stouts need to be enjoyed when it is 90 degrees and humid outside. That is the best time for
Some diehard
for a
shit
stout.
right there.
Absolutely, absolutely is. They talked about the question, is the brewing community supportive of each other, or are they just more of, I'll give you the friendly little acknowledgement up nod, like, yeah, I see you over there, you brewer from another
Right.
place. Or are there
Like the
friendships?
cholo
Are there
nod?
exactly?
Yeah, really.
Exactly. The whole ownership team met while playing Pogs in their local library as young teens. And eventually they said, you know what,
Right.
we have so much fun playing games together. Let's open up a brewery. One of the best origin stories out there.
I would have thought it was, a bunch of bros cutting it up, watching Narnia and playing, Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
But, that's not the
Pogs.
case.
They had their slammers.
Boom.
They were chucking them at those little cardboard discs.
Boom.
And from there, it grew into one of the most unique and cool breweries that we have in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get there one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We will have to plan a little trip.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Let's see. What else do we have here? It is okay to dislike some of the beers that they have.
They give you permission.
Yeah. They
They
say,
give you permission.
it's,
Like, you're not going to like everything.
yeah, just don't be a dick about it.
That's right.
Don't be a
That's-
dick about it. Instead, eat Dick's potato chips.
That's perfect.
Open up a bag, eat the whole bag.
Yeah.
Put dicks in your mouth. Don't be a dick.
Perfect.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Don't be a Richard.
2 other notes that I have on this episode: Bud Heavy and vodka were the intro alcoholic beverages for John and John.
Yeah.
Holy cow! we have heard
I didn't
in
know
all
they
the
were
shows, right?
doing
no,
Boilermakers with vodka and Bud Heavy.
in all the shows that we've recapped, and all of the origin stories that we have heard from brewers and brewery owners and founding fathers and all that, I think that this is the first time the intro to beer, intro to drinking, has included Bud Heavy and vodka.
Bud Heavy was the first beer I ever had. Now, it's not the first craft beer, obviously, because it's not craft.
Well, true, fair.
But
All right.
but their stories are interesting. Did a little bit of talk about Smirnoff.
Yep.
Smirnoff talk.
A little bit of Zima talk.
Zima talk. I remember
Yes,
Zima
yes.
for the first go round. The initial
The
Zima.
initial one. Yep.
Yep.
That dog remembers Zima too and says, nope, don't bring it back.
I had some Zima.
do
I
it.
took it to Shift Beers.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that episode.
Oh boy.
They
That was some episode.
they were not the most pleased with you for that, but they pushed through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rip Shift Beers.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, indefinite hiatus, we will say. We will
Yeah.
stay optimistic.
Kind of like Listerman's food.
Ooh. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
I only bring it up because we're going to talk
We're
about
going
it
to
in a
talk
few
about it,
minutes.
yes. Last note that I had on this episode before the somewhat unnatural cutoff: nothing at all was learned through their home brewing experiences.
A lot of homebrewing experiences have similar anecdotes.
True. Very true. I really didn't have any other notes on this.
All of mine were
because-
great, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single one?
Every single one was great. I did not
Did
have...
you learn something from every single batch?
I did.
There you go.
I did. I did not have a single homebrew that turned out flat or infected. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that I felt like I had an aptitude for understanding the fundamental processes. Mm-hmm. And so,
Did any of your homebrews last 12 years?
Oh, no, hell no. 12 years.
We'll talk about
12
that.
days, maybe.
We'll talk about that later, too.
It's the longest I ever aged
Oh,
a
my
homebrew.
goodness.
Jesus, maybe 3 months.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Did you have any other notes on this episode of, again, kind of a new to us, turn this off podcast?
The only thing I'd say is because we got this information, I think basically you sent it to me yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure to take in the content, listen to it, and think about some of the things that they were talking about. I didn't actually get to
Process?
I didn't get to understand what the podcast is actually about.
Yeah, it did just kind of jump into talking to John and John. It sounds like the host of this podcast and at least one of the Johns have been friends. And kind of hey, I'm doing this. Let me, interview you guys for it. But right, I don't understand the full concept of what the Turn This Off podcast is about.
The intro is cool too.
Right, it was
like that. There was a lot of production put into the intro, so that's cool
for sure. And like I said, I just saw a social media post. It was Fabled shared a small clip of this on their Instagram story, so it didn't last for a
That's
super
why I
long
wouldn't have
time.
seen it. Not on Instagram.
And it took me a while to actually track this down and find it. It wasn't showing up in my podcatcher right away, so no idea what was going on there. But it's something new that is local-ish, so I'll kind of keep an eye on it and see if anything else pops up, like the part 2 that we'll hopefully get of the Fabled interview, and then we'll maybe have a little more time to absorb what the podcast is and what it's about, and does it need to be on our radar, or will there just be one-off episodes about Cincinnati craft beer for us to talk about on random occasions, like this one? Yeah. All right, 2 more shows to talk about, Marco.
Okay.
Do you want to go with Barstool Perspective, Bruce Guy's Booze News, or The Weekly Pint?
Let's go Booze News.
All right. Flipping both of our notebooks over to the proper page.
Flipping notebooks.
This was the episode.
It's a band name.
It's a good band name.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was the episode that went live on July 26th of 2024. Bourbon is about to fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
It was about a 31-minute episode, and it's the first one that I was not able to make it to live. Just life in general.
Oh, I was working. No way I was going to be able to make it.
And I mean, this would have been a good one for me to chime in on because I got a little shade thrown at me, sort of. That's me just making fun, but it was another fantastic episode.
It was fun.
It started off with Oktoberfest is here.
It's here.
So is pumpkin beer
Julia,
season.
Oktoberfest is back.
Germany will have an alcohol-free zone at their Oktoberfest this year.
They always have. You know what it's called? Outside of Oktoberfest.
You are not wrong. It's
an alcohol-free zone. What does that do? What are you doing there?
Drinking non-alcoholic beverages.
Would they allow you to buy a pretzel? I mean, what else are you doing?
I don't know. Premensel? Wow, what the hell am I doing?
I don't know.
Pretzels sometimes
It's a non-alcoholic pretzel. Yeah.
They can have whatever they want. They can have a wine-only area for their Oktoberfest.
They could.
And it's not going to bother me one damn bit.
No.
Though it
doesn't bother me.
No, not at all.
Just
fine.
What is that?
I don't know.
All the non-alcoholic Weinstefan you can drink.
Yeah.
It still costs the same amount as regular beer.
Does it over there as well?
I don't know.
I'm assuming.
Julia,
I
haven't been there.
Well, why not? You need to go over there and do some research.
We should.
And then, we can
should
properly.
Little bit of problem with
funding.
Some other issues.
So, Dick's Potato Chips, if you would like to sponsor the show and sponsor Marco and I going to Munich to check out Oktoberfest, hit us up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our occasional third co-host.
Yes.
The Gnarly Gnome.
He can get his own sponsors. If he can't be bothered to show up, he can get his own sponsor to fly him over to Germany.
Okay.
Yep.
But
I'm very hurt right now that he's not here. Can you tell?
I don't understand. Yeah, we're hurt. Hurt he's not here. I guess I need more information on why this needs to be a thing.
Yeah.
Why can't you have fun with the rest of us? Yeah. We as drinkers would invite you to come have fun with us.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're drinking.
Right.
So why do you have to be separate?
Right. Are they trying to ostracize the non-drinkers, or is it something that they don't want there to be pressure? Again, we don't have enough information about.
You don't want to have a beer? Don't have one.
Yeah. I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
Okay. Moving on.
Got nothing. The top beer producing companies. Companies was released. And the only thing that I wrote down about it, Heineken makes a shit ton of beer.
They do. More than I think most people that hear the results of this would think.
Yeah, it did kind of surprise me. I'm like, holy shit, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay, because I guess when I think of Heineken, I think of,
Skunked beer.
well, yes, but I think of like one brand, not all the brands
Yeah,
underneath
there's a
of that main
portfolio
label.
brand.
There's a
Yeah.
very big portfolio there, and that I just don't consider because I really don't drink any of it. So, let's see. The demand for champagne is dropping, and we found out that Mike is not a champagne sommelier.
He's not. I
No,
mean, to his
no.
admission.
Yep.
Who knew? Who'd have thunk it?
Not me.
No.
Not me. I feel that Mike knows all things about all things.
I-
And so for him to admit a failing in one, especially in a beverage category, I was shocked.
I think I can maybe count on one
Shocked.
hand the times that I've had champagne.
I think I tried it once and I went, this is awful, and I just never tried it again.
I mean, there's got to be several different ones.
Oh, I'm
and
sure
there's
there are,
probably,
yeah.
You know, beautiful representations of champagne, and
Mm-hmm.
there's probably just, you know, swill out there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us who maybe have only had champagne 1 or 2 or 3 times in our lives, we probably ended up
Probably
having
wasn't the best.
Probably not the
No,
best.
no.
Probably not even a mediocre representation of champagne.
Right.
But you know, whatever.
The financial tip of the week.
The tip.
Do not invest in bourbon and start selling all of your expensive bottles.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the bourbon
how-
market is tanking-ish, kind of, sort of.
No, it's tanking. According to their information, there is going to be so much unsold volume out there
Yes.
that it's going to be staggering in the next 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which,
good
in
for
theory, should drive the price down. Because when the supply is high,
higher than the demand. Yep.
then yeah, it's higher than demand. It should
Right.
drop the
Right.
price down.
We'll find out. I feel like this is more of a long financial game, and not a
Well, I think if you're
Like a
sitting
weekly
on
whatever?
bourbon to sell, I think
do it sooner rather than later.
you should do it
But if
sooner
you're
rather
waiting,
than later.
but if you're using this to wait for the bourbon that you want to buy's prices to come down, you're still going to be waiting.
Oh yeah,
bit.
you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
be into the next presidential administration before those prices.
Dude,
come
which
down.
is sooner than
no, I mean
I care to-
not
Oh,
this one.
Oh,
not the one
next-
coming up in November.
Oh, I see what you're
You're
saying.
going to be
Yes,
into
yes,
the next one.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Moving on.
Let's see. Columbus has beer vending machines, and the conversation around how they validate you caused Mike to go off in such a spectacular fashion that it broke Bret.
Oh, he had
That
a
was
spectacular rant.
amazing.
Let me just go on record as I am not going to seek out any of these machines.
No, I'm not either.
I don't understand why we need to take people out of every equation. They're already doing surgeries for us. They're serving us at restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're replacing so many different jobs. Why do we need to take people out of the selling of, you know,
Beverages,
simple
yeah.
beverages?
Yeah, because that also allowed them to go onto a tangent about pour your own locations.
Oh,
Which was also, I
the
mean,
worst.
They've been on several tangents and rants about that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
This one was no different, and it is. It's like, what are you want a tip for what?
Yeah. I mean, if you went to an all-you-can-eat buffet,
Or buffet?
buffet,
Yes.
pre-COVID, who are you tipping? You're tipping the busser, right?
Yes,
That's who
yes.
you're tipping.
Yes.
You leave a cash tip at the table,
Mm-hmm.
or when you were paying your bill at. Actually, what happened a lot of times when you went to all-you-can-eat buffets, you paid first,
Yeah.
and you were leaving a tip, and you knew you were leaving a tip for the busser.
Which I am 100% for, because
Totally fine.
you could have 100 freaking plates at your table depending
Totally
on
fine.
what's going on.
But
yeah.
But you have a self-serve soda station, ice cream station,
Mm-hmm.
chocolate fountain. You know, you have all-you-can-eat bacon, and you know, just the worst ribs and roast beef in your life. But-
Every steak is beyond well done.
Yeah, they should just call it
A briquette.
Yeah, beyond well done. You can't call it beyond. That's something totally different. But why am I tipping you
Right.
at a self-serve
Right.
beer bar?
Right.
For what?
Just to piss me off, apparently.
Yeah. You done pissed Julie off.
Everyone.
You know what she's going to do?
Not go back.
She's going to...
I'm going to complain on our podcast, and then I'm not going to go back.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, you know what we forgot to tell people about Fabled?
Uh-oh.
We forgot to tell people to check the website.
Yes. Check the website. Check the website.
Did you check the website?
Did you check the website?
Yeah, I checked the website.
I checked the website.
They didn't check the website.
No, some people did not check the website.
Nope.
Be sure you check the website, people.
Check the website.
Yes. Back to Barstool Perspectives. The New York Times food critic has quit.
Yep.
And they talked about a fantastic article that he wrote about Guy Fieri's restaurant. I found the link.
Let's go.
Because Barstool Perspective said, oh, we'll put a link in the show notes. They did not.
Shocker.
They were taking yet another page from the gnarly gnome book of Show Notary and Going Live. I found it. I actually already opened up, a Word doc that I'm going to have for this week's show notes, and it's already there. I did have to sign up for like a free New York Times account to access it. It wasn't behind a paywall, but it was behind you need an account to read this. It is worth it to read this review. I wrote down one quote that hopefully will have you go, okay, yeah, I need to read the whole thing. It was amazing. One of the quotes from this article was, how did nachos, one of the hardest dishes in American canon to mess up, turn out so deeply unlovable?
Wow. Holy
and that
shit.
was like one of the more tame sentences in this review.
Jeez.
It was amazing. And Bret, thank you for mentioning this article because I read it like 3-4 times. It's astounding. It is absolutely astounding. So check our show notes for that link and add us on social media with one of your favorite quotes from the article.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'll get anything for it this week, but it'll be fun just to have some conversation about it.
Yeah.
Let's see. They talked a bit more about the Kroger-Albertson merger. It is on hold for now.
Yeah.
Good. We'll see what happens. And a reminder to buy their book, Tanked in Cincinnati.
Tanked in Cincinnati.
It's amazing. I have a link to purchase it, a link that will give them money for buying it in the show notes as well.
Good job, Julia.
Such amazing interviews and stories with
book.
some of the most amazing people in the craft beer world.
It's a great book.
And I can't wait for the second version. I can't wait for part 2.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that they have so much information and content that they're threatening a part 2.
Yeah. Don't threaten me with a good time.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Bring it on.
Absolutely. Before we get to the sip count, which, Mike, I appreciate each and every one of your sips. Thank you.
Thank you,
I hope
Mike.
that you appreciate my $1 a month contribution to the Brew Skies Fund, which I don't know what it's going to, but, hopefully something fun.
It's probably Mike's haircuts.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Takes a lot to get it.
And his
to look that
wardrobe.
good. Yes. He does have some pretty fancy shirts.
Quite a collection of bowling shirts.
Agreed. Ready for our sip count numbers?
Julie, if I'm not now, I won't be.
You never will be?
Never.
All right.
So let's go.
Mike took a total of 20 sips
Oh,
this
hell yeah.
episode. So he had 40 ounces. Well, okay. He did not drink 40 ounces of a beverage according to our game, which is for every one sip they take, regardless of their sip size.
Yep.
You take a 2-ounce drink.
Yep.
So for
A
our
2-ouncer.
game, that's 40 ounces or 2.5 pints. Bret took 26 sips.
Hell yeah.
Which, again, by our drinking game, that's 52 ounces or 3.25 pints.
Yes, indeed.
And they had 2 unintentional emojis.
Yes, saw those.
Which is 4 ounces, quarter of a pint. Add all of that together in this 31-minute episode. They had a grand total of 48 countables.
Hell yeah.
That is 96 ounces.
Let's go.
6 pints in 31 minutes.
5
pints every 5, or a pint every 5 minutes.
I would probably have to phone a friend.
Ooh, you need to split that up amongst
I'm not saying I
friends.
couldn't do it. I'm saying
But
it'd be wise
it would
to
Yeah.
decide. It's like when you go to, like, say, Buca de Beppo and you're like, hey, let's get a salad. Well, I want this salad and you want that salad. Like, it's probably better off we share a salad.
Yes, because they bring it to you
Family
in, like,
style. Giant.
Yeah, it's the size of the table we record at.
Yeah.
Holy cow, so much food.
Yeah.
So much food.
Too much.
All right. Do we need to take a break or any other notes before we move on to the last show we're going to talk about, the Weekly Pint?
I think we're going to take a break to give the listeners a pause moment, like a built-in pause moment.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right.
We'll be
Right back.
Longest break ever. The Reds are now up 5-0, the bottom of the ninth.
Ooh.
We are getting ready. So that means Nick's not at the game, right?
No, he's not at the game.
Okay. We've been looking.
Yeah.
We've been watching the TV instead of recording.
Some guy in a Reds polo and a Reds hat.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one of those there at the stadium,
Only
right?
one.
Yeah, only one, yeah.
Shorts and flip-flops.
Yes. That's a certain kind of confidence to wear flip-flops to a Reds game. Or like to a public stadium kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially if you have to go to the bathroom while you're there.
Oh, God.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
I'm a closed-toed shoe guy.
Uh-huh.
Anywhere other than home. And then at home, I'm a flip-flop guy.
There you
I'm
go.
not walking around barefoot anywhere.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I typically always have
Not
some
happening.
type of a shoe, flip-flop, sandal, whatever, just something.
Some sort of foot protection.
Exactly. All right, you ready to talk about the last show that we have to cover this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
It is, I'm going to go into it, the weekly point.
We cheers.
And what
Cheers.
are you cheering with? We kind of missed there because
It's still glass.
It's still glass. Yeah, but
I got a stubby, Coors Banquet stubby bottle.
all right, the weekly pint, episode 222. I love lager beer.
The triple deuce, Julia.
Yes. And guess
Some
what?
days are like that.
Yes. Some days are, Marco.
Yeah.
Some days are.
Some days
Hopefully
it be
today's
like
not.
that.
Oh, good Lord. What's funny is I don't know how much really lager talk he had in this episode. I guess we'll talk about it as we go through.
I don't remember.
all the
I don't
different things. You
remember very much of the lager talk.
That's the thing. I don't think there was any, or there was very little. It wasn't as much as what you would expect.
Yeah. Or
based
someone
on the
say
title alone.
un poquito.
There you go. Once again, we got to pick Gnome's non-beer.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, give me a number," and Josh and I were
Everyone
on the
said
same page.
3.
Everyone said 3. Every single person.
Everybody said 3.
Everybody. So he had
Everybody.
he had a 50 West Bomb Pop Hard Lemonade.
Yeah. He was going to have it anyway.
He was. Which I keep telling him whenever he's like, "Oh, you guys disappointed me with the beer." I'm like, "We don't see what you're picking out of the
Yeah.
fridge.
Pick whatever the fuck
Pick
you
whatever
want."
you want. It doesn't matter, We still feel like we're involved. Whatever. He can do what he wants. Gnome is so incredibly dedicated to the weekly pint. He went live even though there were tornado sirens going off. He's like, screw the safety of my house, my family, my life. I need to go live with the weekly pint.
We'd have done that, though.
We probably would have.
Yeah.
The only
Actually,
difference
wait a
is
minute. We did.
Yeah.
We've been here recording
We've been here
during...
during some major storms, and we're just like
Major storms.
watching the big glass windows. We're like, I think back where we sit, we're safe-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure Nick will let us run into the stockroom. Yeah, because that's when even Josh said, he sent me a text well, would he kick you out if the power goes out? I'm like, no, if it's freaking storming out there, they're not going to kick us out of here.
Especially if we're still drinking.
Yeah, and recording. Our stuff runs off a battery. I mean, we could do this all night.
I'm sure they have
But
an offline mode. They can still keep ringing us up for things.
And it's not like we're not coming back next Tuesday, if not, sooner than they know where we are. They have our information.
Yeah, they can. It's
just be
not
like,
hard.
No, not at all. But no, I mean, Gnome even called his wife and said, "Hey, the tornado sirens are going off. If you guys need to come down here while I'm recording, while I'm doing the weekly pint, you guys can, because even they know nothing is more important than the weekly pint. Again, including their safety and
Almost
the
nothing,
house.
yeah.
Almost nothing.
Almost nothing.
Almost. Let's see. Bad Tom Smith. The new location has been
BTS.
announced. It is in Union Township, so it is not down by the river, which is what
Down by the river.
Exactly. He asked about our thoughts on it, and no one really had many strong feelings on it. I would like to make it down to the current tap room, because we don't know if that tap room is going to still exist and Union Township will be a second one, or if they're going to shutter the first location. I'm still going to go down there. I want to see the vault. I want to, kind of check it out. But But yeah, I mean, as it stands, no real big, huge, strong thoughts one way or another. But I think it's supposed to be a really cool space. Office space, retail space, the brewery space. And I don't know what square footage means. So when he's like, oh, it's supposed to be this big. And I'm like, that means nothing to me. I can't visualize that in my head.
I mean, I wish him all the best, but
Right, exactly. Gnome was very itchy.
Yeah.
This episode. Hopefully things have calmed down for him.
Yeah, they've got ointments.
And creams and sprays. Right.
Yeah,
right.
sprays.
That's what he gets for going on vacation. If he would just stay in Cincinnati.
He could have sprayed himself with stuff to not get the itches, the bites.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently there is nothing up there if you go into a store to buy beer. The only craft beer you can find is Cincinnati beer.
Yeah.
Which
way to go,
highly
Cincinnati.
Of Cincinnati, right? But I know there are good breweries up in like Cleveland, Columbus, Athens, in that area that you would think would be on a store shelf. You do wish that when you're in another city, town, state, whatever, what have you, that you find local beer that you can try. So.
You'd like that.
Yeah, it's fine to have some Cincinnati beer up there, but you would hope that that's not everything. That's not macro.
It's interesting that there are breweries in the area.
Yeah,
they're not at retail.
Yeah.
And they're not at apparently the bar restaurants that he stopped outside of the breweries to enjoy.
Right.
So that's interesting.
Dortmunder Gold and Truth.
Yep.
That's all he was able to drink up there. Oktoberfest season.
Probably had Sonder.
Probably did have a lot of Sonder, yeah. Oktoberfest season is
back.
And hopefully the Oktoberfest Quest finale will take place during one of the second most important beer events in the city, Cincy Beer Week. Which is happening, the 3rd through the 14th?
Yes.
4th through the 13th?
Correct. Of October.
Some combination of those numbers, yes.
Of October, and Big Sis.
Big Sis will be released on the 12th, which is during Cincy Beer Week.
Yep.
Let's see. What other notes do we have here? Listerman.
Yeah, we teased that earlier.
Temporary kitchen shutdown. Very interesting. So they made a post on, I think it was Sunday, saying due to some unforeseen staffing issues, the kitchen will be closed. Feel free to bring in your own food. And then the very next day, it was the kitchen will be temporarily closed for the foreseeable future. Feel free to bring in your food. I feel like they have never had very good luck with their food partners for one reason or another. Don't know exactly what's going on there, but I don't know. Our friend Elijah also said that the homebrew store isn't really up to par anymore, and you really don't hear a lot about them or from them other than kind of the typical repeating weekly posts and all that. They're not doing beer releases like they used to do, so it's somewhat concerning, kind of wondering what's happening with Listerman. No one really knows. So maybe Gnome will have the opportunity to do a show there, ask a couple questions, maybe get some answers, but fingers crossed this is literally just a temporary bump in the road, and they're going to resort things out, kind of readjust the direction that they're going, whatever that might mean, and Listerman is still going to be doing all the awesome things that they've always been doing.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's super temporary, like somebody was just, ill.
Right.
But,
or kind
knows?
of, one of the things that I said, I think it was before we started recording, it could have been that one person was sick, they went into work when maybe they shouldn't have, got everyone else in the kitchen sick, and now you do not have anyone for like a week while everyone's getting better. Again, speculation.
Yeah, or you don't know. I was going 71 North on yesterday.
Yes.
And then it was sort of like around 12:30, and I was going. I merged on to 71 North, and as soon as I merged on to 71 North, there was like 4 cars in an accident off to the shoulder, and then about 30 yards ahead of them were 3 cars in an accident off to the shoulder,
and they all worked at Listerman's kitchen.
There was a combined total of 12 vehicles in different increments
Right.
involved in an
things
accident.
happen. Right.
Things happen.
Things could happen. So
Could happen.
we have zero information.
Tornado.
It could
Tornado
touched
there
down
was
and just
tornado.
like sucked up the
Yep,
kitchen.
yep.
The fryer's just gone. Yeah.
Just poof,
Yep.
gone.
Hey,
Just
you
like
know
a
what?
cow.
Just like a cow.
Yeah. In Twister.
They had a cow. They got a fryer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just flew across the street. Who knows where it went to?
Who knows?
Yeah. Coming off of that, we got an emoji show. And they weren't all unintentional. So the emoji
the
count for this
emoji
episode
show.
is hilarious. No one wasn't sure why they weren't working automatically, so he decided to force them to happen. And good Lord, it was colorful and vibrant and insane. 2 other notes for this before we have a bonus live episode recap, which I think... No, we'll do the main one first, and then we'll kind of talk about that. Lagerfest. Lagerfest is this weekend at Northern Row. Noam is incredibly excited about that. I think that was the only lager talk that actually happened during this episode, outside of a bit of the Oktoberfest talk. So we all know Noam loves lager beer, but this episode did not dive too much into his love of lager beer. And a reminder to keep an eye on CincyBeerWeek.com. Sign up for the newsletter, follow the Cincy Beer Week social media, Facebook, Instagram, because there is going to be something happening every single day of Cincy Beer Week. It's going to be amazing. You're not going to want to miss it. And I don't know what else I can say to hype it up other than if you are a local brewery, bottle shop, bar, something, if you want to participate in Cincy Beer Week, reach out to the Gnarly Gnome via his website or email or social media and find out how you can be involved in this absolutely amazing event that is finally back. Do we want to talk about his bonus live and then do the sip count, or do we just want to do... Okay, bonus live. So apparently he went live again at midnight, so I guess after the tornado sirens had calmed down and, he verified that the house was still standing, he went live again to drink a 12-year-old home brew that he still had in his basement. He decided to see if it was going to explode and if it was still, in fact, drinkable. It was supposed to be a Dunkelweizen. Was it? When he finally opened it?
Was it?
It was like a 5-minute episode, so you absolutely have time to watch this. If you don't, you're a liar. So watch it. Find out, was this still the beer that he thought he made? It did not explode, I will say that.
That was
surprising. That was surprising. When he poured it into a glass, it looked fine. The smell, however, he said wasn't quite what he would have hoped it would be.
Probably more of what he expected it to be.
True. And then watch to find out if the beer was actually drinkable. And that's all I got for both episodes of Gnome Live. Weekly Pint and his little bonus live. Sip count, because I know you have some stuff that you need to take care of, so we'll go ahead and just wrap this episode up, because
That's fine.
We've actually spent a good amount of time talking for all
good.
these episodes. Yeah.
That's what we do.
I have a sip count, a sniff count, a bug bite count, and an emoji count.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Because why the hell not?
Let's go.
He took 3 sips. He took 8 sniffs.
Okay.
He counted 15 bug bites.
Ooh, my.
And he set off 10 emojis.
That's wonderful.
That brings us to a total of 36 countables,
Okay.
which is 72 ounces.
72 ounces, yeah.
4.5 pints in this just under an hour-long episode.
Totally doable.
Absolutely doable. And then I did have a sip and a sniff count for the little bonus, but I forgot to do the math on that.
Okay.
He took a total of 9 sniffs
Okay.
and 2 sips.
So it's 22 ounces.
22 ounces, so that's what, a pint and about a pint and a quarter
Yeah.
ish for 5 minutes. So there you go. Easy enough. Are you going to do some math for us? Nope. Nope, absolutely not. Well, did you have any other notes on any of the episodes that we talked about today before we wrap this up, so you can get some stuff taken care of and enjoy the rest of your night as I'm leaning over and talking away from the microphone? I'll take that as a no. Life happens. Our podcast is, as Noam would say, chaos, and that's all good. If you like what we've done tonight, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell your dog walker, tell your bird pet sitter. I don't know. Like, review, subscribe, share, do all the things you need to do.
Tell the person that bleach. Never mind.
Oh, no, we don't need to talk about lightning things. Read our show notes for links to all kinds of fun stuff, such as how to buy tanked in Cincinnati and how to read one of the most amazing restaurant reviews I have ever seen in my entire life.
Well, I can't wait to get to that.
You can also find out how to do things like follow us on social media and our email address. It's all at our website, truthbeerpod.com. The biggest thing at truthbeerpod.com that you should do is find out how to become a Patreon subscriber, where you get unedited or mostly unedited episodes of each and every week's content. I do cut out the silences, and if like me or Mark or someone has like a coughing fit or just something that it's just not pleasant to listen to, I do tiny cuts of those, but everything else, all the awkward pauses, the terrible puns, you get absolutely everything. Elijah has said on more than one occasion, it is a laugh out loud good time. Christine, who doesn't even live in Cincinnati, she supports us on Patreon, and she is wonderful, and maybe we can figure out some time to do like a phone call with her on the show, because I think that would be absolutely spectacular. But with that being said, Marco,
Julia,
what are you going to be doing next Tuesday?
I think we're doing this here. Cheers.
Cheers. We actually clink glasses. You just couldn't hear it because my knuckles got in the way. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.